Welcome back to the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast here on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify. I think that's all of them. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, really awesome interview I have with a country artist. Don't usually have country artists on here, but like I said, anything goes, any kind of genre, and that's certainly what we're doing here today. And it is with Jamie Lin Wilson. She released an awesome album this year, Jumping Over Rocks. It has some great songs on it. We touch on all of those and much more. Really excited to have her on the show. It was an awesome interview. You guys are going to love this one. But first, word from our sponsor, Believe the Hype. Selling the latest sneakers. Follow them on Instagram and Twitter at Believe Hype Shop. You can find those links in the description to purchase some sneakers. With that, let's jump right into this interview with Jamie Lin Wilson. So, you ready to jump right into this?
Yeah.
All right. So, just what was the process like behind your album this year, Jumping Over Rocks?
Well, it was kind of just something that ended up coming together. I had put out a record in 2015. That was kind of my first solo project. And then I hadn't really given much thought to what happens next with regards, other than touring or playing shows and stuff. I hadn't really thought ahead, and I wasn't writing or anything because also I had a baby, I had a baby in 2014 while I was making that other record. So I was, that was my third, and it's hard to sit down and write anything, be creative at all. So I wasn't really worried about it very much. And then all of a sudden I wrote a song for the first time in, 6 or 8 months probably, maybe longer than that. And that song was If I Told You, which is the last track on this Jumping Over Rocks. And immediately after I wrote that song, I went, oh, well, now I have to make another record. Okay, cool. and all of a sudden the wheels were turning for what became this record. And also in my mind, I had kind of set a bar, set a standard for the song, because I really like If I Told You. And so I started writing songs and going, if it's not better than this one, then and it's not going on there. If it's not at least as good or better, then it's out, So at some point I had maybe 5 or 6, and then I went, all right, now I need a deadline, and I set myself up and I set up studio time. So I don't know. After that, everything just kind of, the process actually was fairly easy. You know what I'm getting at? It's like just one thing then another. And then all of a sudden, I had all of the songs, and the rest of the songs came during the recording process. 2 of them, actually, I finished during studio time. And then, 4 days later, I had a record.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it sounds like when I listen to that process, it doesn't sound like it was really forced or anything. It was just kind of a natural.
It was not at all. It was not forced, and that's what was pretty cool. Even though I did set myself a studio time before I had all the songs written, that kind of a deadline is a little bit of, seems like I might be forcing it, but when I kind of just trusted it instead, I went, all right, it'll happen, or I'll record 8 songs, and then we'll see what happens,
Yeah, I mean, looking at this track listing, 10 songs, a runtime of 40 minutes. It's an album where it definitely does not fall on the long side, but it has that nice length I usually like to say for albums, where it's you don't get done and be wanting too much more, but you don't get done and saying, wow, that was too long or anything.
Right. And I've listened to and I have made long records before, and I could have added another song on this one. We actually did record 11 songs. And so there's a track that didn't get put on the record. We'll probably release it at the beginning of the year or something. But it just didn't fit the narrative of the record. And I thought, rather than putting another song on there that might feel out of place, I would rather just have 10 that feel nice and cohesive. Mm-hmm. And I think that was think that was fine. I think it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you're definitely like at peace with that kind of decision. That decision, I think,
Yeah.
a lot of times for some artists it might be difficult to cut down on tracks, but for you, it's like these are the best 10. These are the 10 that I wrote that I want on this record, and here's my best work.
Right, and I have a thing with, and I think probably a lot of artists do too. But like, I want the songs to feel like they're a unit. Like, I don't want it to be, and like, for example, one of the songs two songs that I finished writing during the recording process were In a Wink, which is about my daughter, and Death and Life, which is about my family, and ended up being the title track of the record. But those two songs in particular, if I didn't have them, then the whole record wouldn't have tied together in my mind. I was like, I have to finish these two in order to connect all of the dots. Like, these dots are here and they need to all be together. And these two songs kind of tie the album back to me, because those are both very personal songs. So they were kind of a bridge there.
And I think I would agree.
My brain works weird sometimes.
And I think I definitely agree with that. I mean, I read a description of this, how your album touches on universal themes, but they remain specific and personal. And I think these two songs are two very good examples of that, where there's that personal touch, but still presented in a way that a lot of the audience can then relate to it and maybe apply to their own lives.
Right. Well, I hope that happens. And I used to be really afraid of, whenever I first started, I was afraid of writing too personal, like writing from too personal point of view. And because you get very specific in your words and descriptions of things. Like, I'll go in there and completely be like, this is about one event that happened on this day, and it looked like this, and it was exactly like this, and I'll describe it and think nobody's going to relate to that because it only happened to me this one time. And those are always the songs that end up resonating with people the most. And, I think that it's just because people like that, I don't know. That happens to me too. I listen to songs. Like, there's a song right now that's out, that off of Roseanne Cash's new record, and it is about her husband, very specifically, like traveling with him and writing songs with him and playing songs with him, talking about his Telecaster, talking about the style of guitar that he plays, like, and I love it because I feel like it's her being vulnerable, and for some reason it's my favorite one, even though it has nothing to do with me or anything that I would do.
I think most people, like you said, most people would agree with that the feeling that even though artists maybe, every single lyric doesn't exactly apply to the listener's life, it still has this general theme of just being open, and a lot of times you look towards music for that openness, for that vulnerability in a track.
Sorry, I had to mute you for a second, but yes, I think that's true. And, yeah, I mean, I hope so. I think that's why people lean to music anyway, is just to feel like you are a part of, I don't know, something else for a second also, A little bit of escapism is there as well. But
definitely.
You're my baby. He woke up.
Okay.
He's fine.
One song you already touched on a little bit, but I want to kind of draw us back to there is Death in Life, a song that definitely has that personal touch to it. And I read somewhere that it was a song that took you years to write. What was it about this track in particular that involved such a long process?
Well, that song, years, and it was one of those things where I knew that there was a song that needed to be written about. I knew the subject matter, and I saw the situation going down. Like, there's two different instances there where I thought, okay, well, this is a song and this is a song. And it's not like I tried to sit down and start writing them. I just knew that they were there. So I was letting the ideas kind of form for a long time until I tried. But the first one was in 2012, which I guess is 6 years ago. My husband's father passed away, and he knew he had cancer. He knew his sign, and so he asked my husband to build him a coffin. So that in itself is super heavy, you know. Well, then on the day that he died, Roy did that. Like, we all went home, and then Roy went to the lumber store and got a bunch of pine and started building his dad a coffin. And I was watching this happen, knowing my husband and knowing that that's the way that he works through, you know, stress. That's the way that he grieves. That is to work with his hands. He needs to be busy. He needs to be doing something. And so later I told him, I was like, you know, your dad was really smart, and he gave you a job, you know, to help you through that. And so, you know, that in itself, like, it's not only a song, that's a movie. Like, that's that's just a thing. It's a moment in their lives and in my life. And then a couple years after that happened, Roy and I had a son, and that son was born on Tommy's birthday, on his dad's birthday. So that whole verse is completely true, step by step, line by line. And we named our son after his grandfather, Thomas Roy. And so that in itself, I was trying to go, this is a song that needs to be written. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to give it justice. I need something that's that heavy and that deep deserves a really great song. So the pressure in itself made me not do it. It made me go, nope, I'm not brave enough to tackle that right now. I don't feel like I have the chops to tackle that. And I kind of brought it up to a couple other people as co-writes, you know, people that I knew would be able to help me kind of bring it home, and nobody bit, because they were afraid of it too. And so I just let it sit there for a little bit, and then the other part that ended up completing it was that there's a widow across the street who lost her husband, and then 3 years later still hadn't bought him a gravestone. And I thought, that's a song in itself too, you know, the permanence, and she wasn't really ready to accept that. And then one day I just thought, that's the same song. Like, they're the same song, just, you know, dealing with how we go on, how our life goes on after somebody else leaves, and, you know, life after death, not in the eternal sense, but in the mortal sense. And then watching my son grow up with his grandfather's name, acts just like him, looks like him. I mean, it's just, you see family resemblances, you know, souls move in circles, and traits keep coming, you know, from, like, wow, he acts just like my brother did whenever he was little. Like, just a circle, you know, the whole circle of life. Nothing big, just life in general. But yeah, that's the long answer as to why that song took so long. Is just because it's so heavy. It was really hard to write. And then there at the end, at the, what is it, the 13th hour or whatever it is, I wrapped it up in the hotel room.
Well, I mean,
the last verse.
Yeah, I mean, listening to that story, it's incredible how, you know, just all the true elements of that. And I think I would say you did do that song justice. Just as a listener, it's a very, you definitely get that that heavy feeling conveyed to you when you listen to that song. So I would say that's a well done, very well done track.
Well, thank you.
And just listening to how that song came together, it kind of ties back to the whole album. How you said it was just this natural process, nothing really too forced. Like, yeah, you finished it in the hotel room, during recording, but even then, you're not describing it as it was a mad dash to finish the song. It was almost now it can finally come to an end after this long life of deciding when to write it, writing it, and then finally writing it and then recording it. And I think that just kind of plays out over your entire album. It's that, yes, there were a couple of years between your first one and now this one, but those years were well needed and well used to craft a very good second album.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I did need them. I needed those years, and I needed to. I mean, I've tried to do the thing where you sit down and write every day, and a lot of writers do that. They sit and they write and see what happens, and I need to write a song every day, or I need to write 2 songs a week, or whatever it is. And all that does to me is make me think I'm not very good, because I write them and then they're not very good. So it's just discouraging. So I would rather just not, and just go, you know what? Whenever I do find something that I want to write about, it will come. And whenever I need to do it, it will happen. And I'll be fine. I mean, I can sit down sometimes and go, all right, I've got 2 hours with nothing to do. Let's see what cool words I can come up with, or I'll do that every now and then. It's not like I don't practice or anything, because I do, to try and stay sharp, but I definitely learned that for my personality type, forcing it is not the way to go.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on how exactly you are as a writer. So it's you definitely found your own right way to do things.
Right. Yeah.
So right now, you mentioned you have a gig in a couple days. You've been on tour. You have some more dates heading into the new year. I just kind of want to know, going into 2019 now, wrapping 2018 up with these shows, just where is your mindset at after releasing this album?
Well, I'm tired, but I think that's because I've been really busy. Yeah, it's been great, and this record has been very encouraging for me, and because it's people are really latching onto it, and I think that's really cool, and they're coming to shows and they know the words already when they come to shows, and it's only been out a month and some change, so all of that is really, really encouraging, and I'm getting better gigs, and I'm getting offers to come and do things with people that I wasn't sure that I'd be able to before. And so yeah, I've got some shows left in December. I've got a couple this weekend, and then after Christmas, I'll take off through the week after Christmas, and then after that I'll go back out with American Aquarium again, and into January through some festivals, and then I don't know, we're planning out next year right now, so I'll see what happens, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping to be able to kind of get into some venues that I've only been able to open shows so far. I think I'm going to try to see if I can get in there by myself, take that little one more step forward, and just keep going, because I don't know, so far that's been my career path, is just, and my whole family path, and my my life path, I guess, to just put one foot in front of the other until you get somewhere, and just don't stop going.
Mm-hmm. Well, exactly. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview. I really loved the album. I loved talking with you today, and just thank you for making this all work and finally able to do this.
Thank you. Well, thank you for wanting to, and thanks for liking the record. I appreciate it, and I really do appreciate all the support, and every single little bit helps, and I'm just glad to be able to keep going.
Well, good luck with your show coming up. Hope that voice is sounding great. It didn't sound too bad over the phone, so hope you'll be able to be all good for your gigs coming up.
I have faith that I'm not going to worry about it, and it will work.
Exactly.
It will work when I need it to.
And, as always, a big thank you to Jamie for coming onto the show. Really, really fun to have her on. Really love talking with her. Check out Jumping Over Rocks. It's an awesome, awesome album. Even if you're not the biggest country fan, I don't listen to too much country music, just a little bit here and there, and I still really love the project. So definitely, definitely check it out. Also, if you can, check out to see if her tour dates are coming to a city or a bar or a spot or wherever near you. I'll have links to all her stuff down in the description, so check that out as well. Also, if you want to know when the latest podcasts or anything else are coming out, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JacksonNeill20 for all those announcements, bonus content, links, all that great stuff. Like I said, links down in the description to that as well. Got a really cool last podcast, coming out before 2019. So stay tuned for that. I'll be announcing that in the coming days. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all next time.